This is the verbatim federal courtroom testimony from the trial of Sean Diddy Combs, as reported by Inner City Press. The courtroom was tense when a surprise witness took the stand, a woman no one had expected, but who had seen everything. She wasn't a celebrity or a former lover. She was Diddy's former maid. For years, she had cleaned up after his most private parties, bound by strict NDAs and forced into silence. But now, that silence had come to an end. She spoke of burned contracts, blood-stained bedsheets, and strange, unsettling items tossed into the trash. But the most disturbing discovery? A scorched passport photo of a missing girl. The same girl the world had long forgotten, until today. Gasps echoed through the courtroom as the evidence was revealed. Diddy sat motionless at the defense table, visibly shaken. What this maid had witnessed behind closed doors wasn't just disturbing, it was damning. For the first time, the world was being shown a side of Diddy he had worked hard to keep hidden. This testimony could change everything. She entered the courtroom in all black, a simple dress, no makeup, her hair tied back in a way that clearly said, "I didn't come here for attention." Her name was withheld for her protection, but in court documents, she was referred to only as Housekeeper X. As she sat in the witness chair, the energy in the room shifted. Cameras weren't allowed, but reporters noted that Diddy leaned back in his seat, arms crossed, sunglasses still on, until she began to speak. She introduced herself softly. She had worked for Diddy from 2014 to 2020, hired under a private contract that emphasized discretion and confidentiality. She wasn't part of the party scene. She never appeared in videos. She was the one who cleaned up after the parties ended, after everyone had either gone home or passed out. "I saw a lot," she said, glancing briefly at the defense table. "I didn't understand most of it at the time. I just did my job." But one Monday morning, after what she described as one of the worst after-parties she had ever cleaned, everything changed. She arrived at Diddy's Beverly Hills estate at 6:15 a.m. The house was unusually quiet, too quiet. Normally, music would still be playing, or a chef would be preparing breakfast. But this time, there was only silence. She began her usual routine, starting with the trash. She dragged one of the large bins from the main hallway into the service garage. As she sorted through the recyclables, she noticed a smell coming from one of the burn cans, a mix of plastic, smoke, and something sharper. Inside were ashes, but not just from paper. Mixed among them were half-melted photo frames, a scorched manila folder, and wedged between them a fragment of a passport photo. "I wasn't supposed to look," she admitted, "but it didn't feel right. Something about it was off." At this moment, the judge leaned forward. The prosecutor lifted a copy of the same photo fragment she had reported. It was charred and blurry, but still visible, the half-smiling face of a teenage girl. The jury studied it in silence. Diddy closed his eyes and rubbed his temples. This was the beginning of what the prosecution would later call the House of Ashes. And this quiet, previously overlooked woman was about to become its most devastating witness. As the courtroom settled, Housekeeper X took a deep breath, clasped her hands in her lap, and continued. She explained that she rarely saw the main events, the celebrity-filled parties with flashing lights, booming music, and endless drinking. The real story, she said, began after those parties ended. They called them the after parties, she said. That's when the people who were supposed to leave didn't. The lights would dim even further. Security would tighten. Phones were locked away in velvet pouches. And the guests? They were different. Not always celebrities, she whispered. Some looked nervous, some looked very young. On those nights, her cleaning instructions came with specific warnings. Do not enter the East Wing bedrooms. Do not clean the downstairs den. Only take trash from designated zones. But she admitted to breaking those rules, not out of defiance, but out of fear. Another housekeeper had once warned her, "You don't want to be the one who finds something and says nothing." One night, while cleaning a guest bathroom, she found a blood-stained towel rolled tightly and stuffed behind a toilet. She called security. They removed it without saying a word. Another time, while cleaning the main hall after a party, She noticed strange marks on the hardwood floor, deep scratches, as if something heavy had been dragged across it. But the most unsettling thing she described was the ritual table. It was a long wooden dining table, she said, covered in melted candle wax, burnt photographs, broken glass, feathers, and... She paused. What looked like dried blood. I wasn't asked to clean it, she added, but I had to walk past it every morning. No one ever touched it. It would sit there for days. One time, it disappeared, and the next week, it was back. The judge asked if she had ever reported this. She shook her head. I signed so many papers. I didn't want to end up like the others, the ones who just disappeared. The courtroom went silent again. Even the defense attorneys stayed quiet. The words ritual and disappeared now hung in the air, and they wouldn't be leaving anytime soon. What she found in the trash wasn't a one-time event. It was a pattern, a cycle. After every after-event, the same types of things would appear. Charred papers, torn receipts, half-burned Polaroids, and disturbingly, more photos of people she didn't recognize. One night, she found an envelope with a red stamp. Inside were 5 shredded contracts. The names had been blacked out. The pages referenced things like agreement of participation and full compliance. They were stained, folded, and reeked of alcohol and smoke. At the bottom of the envelope was a $100 bill, ripped clean down the center. She testified that she took the fragments home. She was scared, but couldn't ignore what she had seen. For weeks, she kept them in a small locked box under her bed. Then, one day, while shopping for groceries, everything came together. On the community board at the store's entrance was a missing person flyer. A teenage girl named Malia, last seen at a yacht party in 2016. Her face was nearly identical to the passport photo she had found weeks earlier. Same eyebrows, same dimples, same tiny freckle near the left cheek. She froze, dropped her groceries, walked out of the store. I couldn't breathe, she told the jury. It felt like my chest collapsed. When she got home, she retrieved the burned photo and compared it again. It was her, the same girl. It wasn't a coincidence. She anonymously emailed the photo to a tip line, but never received a response. After that, she always felt like she was being watched.